It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Manic Monday on your favorite station, ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. This is your favorite sports show, ZiFM Sport, featuring your favorite team. That team is Barry Menandi, Chris Meadsy, our producer is Sean Tafirinika, and my name is Mike Madoda. It can be something of a heavy load on a Monday, but we try and lighten it up for you with some prime time entertainment that comes with a bit of education and plenty of information out of the world of sport, local as well as international. And what's that news looking like? On the home front, the Chevrons have promised to learn from their mistakes as they build for the future following a disappointing tour of Afghanistan, or should I say the United Arab Emirates, which ended with a T20 International Series whitewash on Saturday. We also have plenty of international sports news, and rugby is front and center. Pardon the pun, but centre Gael Fiku says he's eyeing the pinnacle of a Six Nations title as they host Scotland on Friday after a last-minute 32-20 victory over Wales on Saturday kept Le Bleu in the hunt for Six Nations glory.
We'll have more international sports news for you when we take you around the world in 60, beginning in India, where skipper Virat Kohli says he will continue to open the batting in T20 international cricket after his unbeaten 80 set up India's series-clinching win over England. In Mexico, second-seeded Alexander Zverev shook off a slow start to beat top-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas 6-4, 7-6 to win the ATP hardcourt tournament in Acapulco. And in the United States, LA Lakers point guard Dennis Schroeder says his team need to overhaul their approach to games without LeBron James, who has been ruled out indefinitely following an ankle sprain.
The second half of the show is our beautiful game update, and on Mondays it's always the Castle Lager World Football Report, where we kick off with FA Cup action, where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has no regrets over his Manchester United team selection in the quarter-final defeat at Leicester, saying he would pick the same team again if given the chance. In France, Kylian Mbappe made it clear he is a long way from the finished article after scoring his 100th goal in Liga, and as Paris Saint-Germain went top with a 4-2 win at Lyon. In Italy, Stefano Pioli says Milan scraped the bottom of the barrel as they came from behind to seal a dramatic 3-2 Serie A win over Fiorentina last night. And we'll review the action in La Liga, the Bundesliga, as well as the Soweto derby. All of that and so much more to look forward to on this edition of ZiFM Sport, and it promises to be an absolutely good one. So let's start it the way that we ought to, with our power play. It's Manic Monday. This is Bay. It's DJ Khaled. It's featuring Akon. Don't know why they talk about DJ Khaled. Akon is the only one you hear on this track.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Let's keep it interactive. Don't forget you can get in touch with us on social media, notably Twitter, where you can follow and interact with. Ask all the questions you want. You might not get the answers, but we'll be sure to respond. Let's talk sport at Chris Meadsy, or is that at Christine Meadsy, at Barry Menandi, at Mike Madoda, at Sean Tafirinika, at Gazaman14 for Alois Bunjira. Let's start with cricket. Not good news if you're a fan of the Chevrons, but they are promising, as they usually do when they're faced with a setback. This time they're saying they'll learn from their mistakes as they build for the future following a disappointing tour of Afghanistan, which ended with a T20 International Series whitewash in the United Arab Emirates on Saturday. After a promising start to the series in which Zimbabwe made history by winning the first test match inside 2 days, the Chevrons found the going tough onwards, losing the second test convincingly and then all 3 T20 internationals. Chevrons coach Lauchand Rajput, who spoke on the disappointment of the T20 International Series whitewash, says his team struggled with the transition from red ball cricket to the white ball. Let's hear from the Zimbabwe coach.
Because to shift from a red ball to white ball, it takes a wee bit of time. Some players adjust quickly, some take a wee bit of time. Afghanistan is a very good T20 side. They are ranked number 1 at the moment. So to play against them and to the best spinners, I think it takes a lot of courage. And I think our boys showed that, because if you look in the test match as well, he had to bowl 98 overs to get us all out. So that's a positive for us. But as I said, I'm a very positive person. We have a good bowling lineup like Blessing, Garawa and Dhoni. And spinners, I think it was positive to see that Rango bowling well and Ryan Ball. 2 leg spinners bowling well. If you look at that, it was a positive aspect.
Z.
A very interesting excuse coming in from Lauchand Rajput. Before we get to hear the thoughts of the team in studio, just a recap of the T20 International Series. The first T20 International, Zimbabwe losing by 48 runs. The second, Zimbabwe losing by 45 runs. And then the third, Zimbabwe losing by 47 runs. All 3 matches with convincing victories for Afghanistan. Barry, the coach, says that Zimbabwe struggled with the transition from Test cricket to T20 international cricket. But need I remind Lauchand Rajput and everyone listening that Zimbabwe lost the second test rather convincingly?
They did. And okay, if we are to take what Lauchand Rajput was saying, isn't that his job as coach to manage that transition, so that the mindset is changed, so that the selection is changed, so the specialists who are specialists in white ball cricket come into the side and can deliver the results that he requires? So perhaps Lauchand Rajput is pointing less of a finger at the players and unknowingly pointing 3 at himself, that he didn't prepare his side for that transition in from the test into the T20. Because as you quite rightly point out, after losing that last test, surely the mentality should have been, we need to bounce back.
Yeah, we need to bounce back, Barry, and you're talking about specialists, but a nation like Zimbabwe with a small playing pool, Chris, surely we can't be talking about specialists. I know we've got certain nations that have got players who are specialists at a certain type of cricket, but that's because they got a bigger playing pool of players. For Zimbabwe, the players that are cracking it at test level should be the ones that are doing the business at one-day international, or the ones that are doing the business at T20 cricket. In fact, even all the top sides, they've got a spine that plays test, one-day and T20 cricket.
Absolutely. And Zimbabwe at the moment does not necessarily have that. We saw a bit of experimentation in terms of the youth that they were trying to blend into the team. But in terms of consistently having that spine, and possibly even like Barry is talking about, having 1 or 2 specialists, especially when you come into a tournament like this where you need them, and it's very evident from the results that you needed them, it's important that you possibly have a couple of players that you can call upon. But what we have in Zimbabwe at the moment is we don't necessarily have that spine, and we don't necessarily have any specialists either.
I want to explore this discussion around specialists, Barry, and specialization, because when I take a look at those 3 results, Zimbabwe losing by 40 odd runs in all 3 games. So just to put it in a nutshell and to frame it for anyone out there who's not necessarily a cricket fan, Zimbabwe was thumped in all 3 matches. We lost convincingly to Afghanistan. Is part of the reason, Barry, the fact that Afghanistan has got a few of its operators who are getting exposed to a higher level of cricket, more competitive action, players like Rashid Khan, players like Mohammad Nabi, who we have seen in the Big Bash League, who we have seen in the IPL, for example, and yet Zimbabwe doesn't have representation in these tournaments, save for a couple of brief forays in Bangladesh and sometimes in the West Indies.
It's correct. Let me start there. You're 100% correct in the sense that the exposure helps these players like your Rashid Khans, your Mohamed Nabis. Why? Because in the Big Bash, they're facing Australian batters who can club you if you don't bowl the right ball. They're facing bowlers who can wipe you out, wipe you clean if you don't play the right shots. The thing that gives me a bit of hesitation is the fact that you've got a scenario where it's cart and horse, chicken and egg, on the basis that you need to play well, number one, for you to be selected for these bigger tournaments. We're not playing well, we're not competing at the right level, so we're not going to be selected for these tournaments. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg in the sense that we can't get the exposure if we're not playing well, but we need the exposure for us to play well. What do we get first?
So instead of aiming high, Chris, for the IPL, for the Big Bash, which are the two premier T20 international tournaments, what of trying to get our players into South Africa, for example? It may not be as competitive as those two competitions, but it's still a higher level of competition than what some of our more promising players are used to.
Yeah, it's definitely a much higher level of competition, and what that'll do is it'll sharpen us, it'll get us playing more, it'll get us playing better. And like you mentioned, even the likes of South Africa, I think it's actually a bit of a leap to go into like the Big Bash tournament. That'll be a major leap for some of our players. I think we actually need that gradual approach. Okay, what is in our purview? What is in our reach at the moment? What would test us? And then you go for the South Africa. And then after that, we can start reaching a little bit higher. But what our players need at the moment is definitely playing a higher level of competition than they're playing in the domestic leagues.
The elephant in the room, Barry, it shook its tail somewhat, and we took notice of it when you mentioned the issues of Lauchand Rajput and perhaps him being at fault for failing to transition. Let's talk about his team of coaches, because Lauchand Rajput doesn't do the job by himself. He's got Stuart Matsikinyere, who's the batting coach. He's got Dagi Hondo, who is the bowling coach. Do you feel that the brain's trust, Barry, first of all, is good enough in terms of managing matches when they're actually happening? Are they scholars of the game? Do they have the mind for it? And then secondly, in terms of preparing our players, because some of these guys are being tasked to develop players who perhaps are at a better talent or a better talent threshold than they were when they were international cricketers.
For sure. Look, I think let's pick them apart. Stuart Matsikinyere, let's put to one side. We'll talk about him momentarily. But Dagi Hondo, I'm going to give him a pass and a rite of passage in the sense that I think early in his career he got exposure to the Dennis Lilly Academy in Australia, and so he had at least some exposure at a higher level. I've got to cut you, Barry, right there. And I understand what you're trying to say. You're talking about early on in his career, okay?
Dagi Hondo and I sparred at school level. So you were talking about late 90s here. You're talking about 96, 1997. So we're talking about a guy who was in the academy 20 odd years ago. Sport doesn't wait for any man. Methods, techniques, tactics, they all change and transition. So he can't be using the knowledge that he got at the Dennis Lilly Academy 25 years ago to try and fine-tune these players now.
Agreed, Mike, but I'm going to say foundational principles don't change. You've got a scenario where Pep Guardiola took a charge of Barcelona a full maybe 15 years after playing under Johan Cruyff. He implemented the same things he learned under Cruyff. So the foundational knowledge doesn't change. Where I have a problem is I'm not sure what Stuart Matsikinyere is telling our batters when he's dealing with a Brendan Taylor who's possibly achieved a lot more than Stuart Matsikinyere. Brendan Taylor, who he's actually played with. So it's a bit of a mismatch in the batting department. In the bowling department, we can have a discussion, wide-ranging, but I think I would be satisfied a little bit more with Dagi Hondo remaining in the position. I'm not too sure what sort of value Stuart Matsikinyere is giving us.
Well, I hope we're not advocating for anyone to be fired here, guys.
Definitely not. I think that's important to say. We're not advocating for anyone to get fired, but certainly an upskilling, an ability to dispense more knowledge in their various departments.
Oh, well, let's just pursue this a bit further as we cap off the discussion. Chris, Barry talked about foundational principles and the fact that foundational principles don't remain the same. Now, I'll grant him that. That is true. But when you take a look at the areas of Zimbabwe's failings, Chris, they've been largely on the very foundational issues that Barry is talking about. Zimbabwe is failing to do the basics right.
Yeah.
Whether it's bowling, whether it's batting, especially fielding. We are failing in the things that we say that Dougie Hondo and Stuart Matsikinyere should know, having played this game at the highest level.
We're failing in those areas, and I think it points to a skills gap. I think that's exactly what it points to, because in as much as you can be able to identify certain things, if you're not able to impart the knowledge, if you're not able to correct the issue, then I think you're just, mucking about. But if there's a scenario where we're seeing that Zimbabwe cricket is learning, we're seeing an improved batting performance, we're seeing an improved bowling performance, then we can say, okay, yes, something is going in the right direction. But as of now, because we're not able to do the foundational things right, that obviously points to the coaching staff.
Well, the debate is raging, especially on social media. Do follow at ZiFM Sport, at Mike Madod, at Christine Midzi, at Barry Manandi, at Sean Tafidinika, and at Gazaman14 for a bit of conversation. The Chevrons arriving in Harare yesterday after that 3-week tour of Afghanistan, which is played in the United Arab Emirates. And with the tour done and dusted, the Chevrons will now shift focus to Pakistan's tour of Zimbabwe, which is scheduled for April and May, where they will play 2 test matches as well as 3 T20 international matches. They'll need to play even better if they are to be even competitive against Pakistan.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with rugby, where Zimbabwe's Brendan Dawson is supremely confident he can join a select band of individuals who have played and coached at a Rugby World Cup. Dawson, a leading member of the Sables squad that made the last of their 2 tournament appearances in 1991, was coach of the team when they missed out on the Africa 1 slot to Namibia at England 2015 by a single point. Now, with Dawson back in charge of the Sables for a second time, the Zimbabwe Rugby Union are leaving nothing to chance in their quest to ensure the national team will be a part of the 2023 Rugby World Cup, and we're certainly willing them on. On to netball news, where Zimbabwe Netball Association Bulawayo Province is inviting clubs that want to play in the Division 2 League to register with the association. Zina had, at the beginning of last year, put in place plans to introduce a Division 2 League to feature teams from Bulawayo before sport was frozen by the COVID-19 enforced lockdown. And the Division 2 League is for players that can't make the Division 1 and Super League. Let's wrap it up with football news. The French Sports Ministry has made a dramatic U-turn on the issue of African players in the Ligue 1 and Ligue 2 being banned from traveling outside Europe during the international break by announcing that they can now do so and won't be quarantined upon return. A decision made by the authorities in France to quarantine returnees from flag countries for up to 7 days had resulted in clubs agreeing to not release players for this week's Afghan qualifiers. It is not clear whether ZiFA are still in a position to fly the France-based duo of Tino Kadewere and Marshall Munetsi to Harare, considering the late announcement. I'm certain that ZiFA will certainly try, because we need those boys. Do we, Alois?
Yeah, we definitely do need those boys up there. When we consider that we are not having the boys from the United Kingdom, Marvelous Nakamba, we don't have Tendai Darikwa, and Bournemouth boy as well. He's not coming. We certainly it's actually certainly a boost for us to have Tinoka Dewere and Machawa Munetsi. But like you say, we are not sure if ZiFA are going to be able to. But rumor has it that they are trying frantically to get the boys into camp with the others. The game is on Thursday, so there's still time. So we hope that they fly the boys so that we can actually be strong, because qualifying is very important for this AFCON.
This is where the benefit of having a private jet would come in certainly handy. Perhaps one of the Mbingas around town can send one of their jets.
Hi, this is Mike Madod, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Our international sports news is headlined by rugby, as Mike said at the top of the show. And of course, we covered your opinions around this and every other subject we're discussing on the show. Why don't you share those opinions on social media with us? You heard the handles earlier. Just remember, at ZiFM Sport. We're talking Six Nations. First and foremost, where France centre Gaël Fickou said he is eyeing, quote, the pinnacle of a Six Nations title as they host Scotland on Friday. Le Bleu need to score 4 tries or more and to win by 21 points in Paris to claim a first trophy since 2010 after Saturday's last-minute 32-30 victory over Wales. Let's hear from France coach Fabien Galtier, who hailed his team's performance after Bryce Doolan's try on the final play of the game denied Wales the Grand Slam and kept title hopes alive.
Sentiment à chaud. Le bonheur, c'est un limite, quoi.
Well, it's happiness without limits. It's joy, it's happiness, it's a swimming pool of happiness. Can it be measured? I don't know. Maybe through the results, maybe what you witnessed tonight, your impressions watching what happened on the pitch might be the answer to that question. No, I'm not surprised by the team's character. I know the guys. I know that they tapped into their deepest reserves tonight and put them on the pitch when they were needed. If you watch the match again, if you watch it, you will see, and maybe you will find the answer to your question.
Z. Mike, I think if the Six Nations was building up just to that game on Saturday night, then it was well worth it because it was played in a cup final format. What an entertaining game of rugby, but heartbreaking for the Dragons.
Yeah, heartbreaking for the Dragons, and discipline is the reason why they lost this game. And ultimately now, they don't even know if they're going to be crowned Six Nations champions. So they've gone from possible Grand Slam glory to a point where they could miss out on both the Grand Slam and the Six Nations altogether. And that's because they were playing the last bits of that game, a man down and then 2 men down. And then they gave away a crucial penalty when they were in possession. All they needed to do was to hang on to the ball, hold on to the ball for 30 more seconds, and then they would have won the Six Nations Championship and won the Grand Slam in Paris. But discipline, we always talk about discipline and how discipline can decide matches between two sides that are equally matched, because the one thing we can agree, Barry, having watched 80 minutes of rugby, is that there was nothing to separate France from Wales. The results could have gone either way. It looked like it was going the Dragons' way, and then Le Bleu, they literally crossed the line in the last few seconds of the game with the last play. So this is key. And what will be disappointing, I think, for PVAC is the fact that Wales over the last 24 months have been the most disciplined side in world rugby. Discipline has been at the heart of what Wales has done in the good times and in the bad times. So you'll be disappointed with the outcome and the ending of that game.
The one element that they was a hallmark of Welsh rugby in the last 12 or so months, discipline being the one thing that did them down in this game. Chris, would you say it was naivete? Was it just a case of being trapped within the headlights of being that close to a Grand Slam, or are we playing down the level of patience that was exhibited by France? Because France, in some areas, like towards the end of the game, made decisions to scrum down where other teams would have probably kicked for the corner and tried to do a line out and push their opponent over. But France was very disciplined in their approach and were very patient in ensuring that they got over the line, and got over the line they did in the very last seconds of the game.
Yeah, we saw a great deal of patience, a great deal of discipline from that France side. But I think at the same time, there's a great deal of pressure that comes with, first of all, staring a Grand Slam in the face and also potentially winning the Six Nations as well. I think what happened to Wales in terms of that crumbling of their discipline was all of that pressure. And they were coming against an incredible France side that was with them toe to toe throughout the entire game. So I think it was a culmination of that pressure, but also France being able to hold on just in the final minute to get that win.
Mike, was this a contrasting approach? Certainly, let's just take the last, call it 5 minutes of the game, a contrast in captaincy, because you saw France exhibiting discipline, but at the same time, Wales almost becoming ragged at the edges. Was it a contrast in leadership?
There's one thing you can never criticize Wales about Barry's leadership. They've got arguably the best captain, the finest leader in world rugby, in Alan Wynne-Jones, very experienced campaigner. I tend to agree with what Chris said. This is pressure. Pressure can do this even to the best of athletes when you are, first of all, facing a monumental achievement in the face. The nerves can begin to tell, and it can translate into the way that you play the game. But let's not forget, they were up against opponents who were motivated, opponents who had something to play for. So that pressure wasn't self-inflicted. It was also externally inflicted by a France side that was playing attacking rugby, knowing that they needed, at the very least, to win the game to keep their hopes of winning the Six Nations alive.
Yeah, take nothing away from France. They managed to get the job done and keep their hopes alive. And now all they need to do is beat Scotland by that score line, of course, like we said, to win by 21 points in Paris. And they will be Six Nations champions. And so that is what stares them in the face. Unfortunately, the Dragons can only watch on TV, hope that things go their way. Other results, 2 sensational Ireland tries from Keith Earls and Jack Conan formed part of a superb display as Andy Farrell's Chargers dispatched England 32-18 in Dublin. Scotland returned to winning ways in the Six Nations as an 8-try performance ensured a record-breaking 52 points to 10 victory over Italy, and that was at Murrayfield. The standings as they stand, Wales, of course, still leads the way with 20 points. Ireland in second with 15 points. France, going into the tie with Scotland, are sitting in third with 15 points. But as we said, they play fourth placed Scotland in that game. Scotland has 11 points. England is second from bottom on 10 points. Rather ignominious tournament for them this time around. And then Italy didn't trouble the scorers in terms of the table. They failed to put up any points on the board in this tournament. Let's quickly switch to Super Rugby Aotearoa. Your results from the weekend, the Chiefs winning finally after 2 games of not beating the Hurricanes 35-29, and then in a fantastic affair of the top 2 sides, Crusaders prevailing 43-27 over the Blues. Mikey, the Crusaders looking in absolutely good nick.
Yeah, absolutely. As did the Blues, to be fair. They weren't hopelessly outclassed. I thought the Blues were in the game all the way until the end. But the Crusaders were able to win the big moments. And that is that's the hallmark of the Crusaders, that they win the big moments and that they are ruthlessly efficient, especially when they are given a chance. So they cashed in when they needed to cash in, and the Blues will need to learn a lesson from the way that the Crusaders go about their business, that when you have your foot on the throat of your enemy, you keep it there. The Blues weren't as efficient because they were getting into very good areas. If you take a look, for example, at the start of that game, the Blues dominated. We all thought that we would probably see a different outcome to what we are normally used to seeing. They dominated, but they didn't leave that particular period of the game with the dominance and the points advantage that it merited. They should have been at least 3 tries ahead by the times that the Crusaders got on the scoreboard, but they were within striking distance, and strike is exactly what the Crusaders did.
Now, our producer, Sean Tafirinigo, waking up at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning to watch that game and then bemoaning his, quote, Blues on Twitter. If you haven't seen that tweet, just pop onto the @ShawnTafirenyika. The Super Rugby Aotearoa standings look like this. Crusaders, having played 4 games, one more than everyone else, they've got 18 points. The Blues are in second with 9 points. Highlanders in third, Chiefs fourth, and then the Hurricanes are in fifth. Super Rugby AU results: Reds prevailing over the Force 26-19, and then the Rebels winning 33-14 over the Waratahs. Standings: Reds, Brumbies, Rebels, Force, and the Waratahs are in fifth.
Hi, I'm JC Krill, Springbok and Blue Bulls backline player. You are listening to ZiFM Sports.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in India, where skipper Virat Kohli says he will continue to open the batting in T20 international cricket after his unbeaten 80 set up India's series-clinching win over England. Kohli was promoted up the order to partner Rohit Sharma for the first time in the shortest format, and the move proved key as they put on a blazing stand of 94 to lay the foundation for India's 224 for 2, their highest T20 international score against England. "I'm going to open in the IPL as well," said Kohli, who captains the Royal Challengers Bangalore in the Indian Premier League after India's 36-run win on Saturday gave them the 3-2 series victory. We'll head over to Mexico, where second-seeded Alexander Zverev shook off a slow start to beat top-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas 6-4, 7-6 to win the ATP Hardcourt Tournament in Acapulco. Germany's Zverev, ranked 7th in the world, had lost his last 5 matches against the world number 5 from Greece. Tsitsipas, who was coming off semi-final appearances at the Australian Open and Rotterdam, was denied a 6th ATP trophy. And we'll touch down in the United States, where LA Lakers point guard Dennis Schroeder says his team needs to overhaul their approach to games without LeBron James, who's been ruled out indefinitely following a high ankle sprain. LeBron exited the Lakers' 99-94 loss to the Atlanta Hawks in the first half after Solomon Hill collided with his right ankle. The Lakers' star player knocked over a chair in frustration on his way to the locker room and received x-rays and an MRI on the ankle after the game. Mike, this is definitely a huge dent to the Lakers, and Dennis Schroeder talks about overhauling their approach. This is going to take a lot of work, and it's going to dent a couple of performances.
Yeah, it will. I think the LA Lakers in the regular season certainly will struggle a bit without LeBron James. So the prayer for any Lakers fans and indeed the Lakers organization is that LeBron is fit and ready for the playoffs, because that's what really matters. And they've got a good enough team, no matter who they get in the draw or whatever route they need to take out west to actually get to the final and compete for honors. So that is the hope. And we also need to see, remember, LeBron is 36, 37 years old? He's not a spring chicken anymore. So we need to keep an eye on how long it might take for this injury to actually heal. That's going to be a key indicator of what LeBron's twilight seasons are going to be like, because we saw the same thing with Kobe Bryant and players like that. Once the ankles go, it's one injury after another, and usually they are missing more games than they have in years gone by, and the Lakers can't afford to be playing more games without LeBron than if he's there.
The Castle Lager Premier Soccer League, La Liga, Serie A, the English Premier League, the Bundesliga. It all comes together with the Castle on the Castle Lager World Football Report.
It was cup action out in England and a bit of league action. We'll give you the results from the Premier League a bit later on. Let's start with the FA Cup weekend results. Bournemouth beaten by Southampton 3-0. Manchester City too good for Everton. It ended 2-0 for Pep Guardiola's men. And Chelsea also scoring a 2-0 victory over Sheffield United. But the big game was definitely the clash between United and Leicester City. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says that he has no regrets over his United team selection in the quarterfinal 3-1 defeat to the Foxes, saying that he would pick the same team again if given the chance. Let's hear from the Manchester United manager.
His team selection has reasons behind it, and of course Bruno has played very, very much football. I think Thursday night he broke all his records of statistically, and you know the boy is not inhuman. He is also a human being. He's played a game every 3 or 4 days really, and it was a chance to start both Donny and Paul. But the accumulation of games maybe caught up with us, and with Bruno as well. I know he wants to play. Sometimes you make decisions for the benefit of both the team and him.
Well, Solskjaer decided to rest a handful of his regulars, starting both Paul Pogba and Donny van de Beek, but sent on Bruno Fernandes, Luke Shaw, Edinson Cavani and Scott McTominay with just 25 minutes left. Alois, this was when United was trailing. Should he have started these players in an important cup game?
Mike, I still don't understand what happened to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to actually start with some of the best players on the bench. You know, you can call it rotation, but I don't understand, because he doesn't have any chance of winning the EPL championship. The FA Cup is one of the glittering trophies in the world football. But for him to actually disregard that and say, I am rotating, I don't even understand what was happening, what was the idea at all. Because that was an option to go back into Europa, because it's possible that we might get into Europa. The top 4 positions are very tight. This season we can win the FA Cup and play in the Europa. It's still a prestigious tournament. Winning the FA Cup is still prestigious again. Now we lost the FA Cup. We might not win the Europa Cup. So what is there to show for trophies? He doesn't have. He should have just gone on and fight for the FA Cup. I still don't understand, because for me the FA Cup is actually a moral boost for the team as well, for everybody else, for the fans, for everybody. But for him to do what he did, I'm still confused about what was happening there.
And Chris, what makes the decision even more baffling is the fact that we've got an international break that's coming up. So surely his reasoning, I don't know what his reasoning is, because why is he trying to rest the players? Why not play the players, secure the result, and then substitute them if you need to?
Absolutely. And we all look at it, and I think this is not the first time that we're taking a look at his selections, at his decision making and questioning them. And that for me simply points to his quality as a manager. Is this a top quality manager who should be managing a team with as much on the line as Manchester United? Manchester United is in desperate need of wins, in desperate need of trophies. And this was an opportunity to make sure they advance in the FA Cup, and he basically flubbed it.
Well, the FA Cup semi-final draw was done. It doesn't feature United, but it does feature City, and they have been drawn versus Chelsea in the pick of the semi-finals. The other one will see Southampton host Leicester, and of course both games will be played at Wembley Stadium. Barry, Tuchel has been lauded for his excellent start to his Chelsea career, and rightfully so. The team is playing well, the team is winning games, they're not conceding, but City is the litmus test, isn't it?
City is the litmus test, and in truth, if we go according to form, this likely game will end 0-0, go to extra time, and then ultimately to penalties, because you got two of the meanest defenses that we've seen under these two managers. They do give very little away, but have a bit in their attacking prowess. The only difference is that Man City, once they get there, like you said earlier in the show, when they put their foot on your neck, they keep it there. So Man City can score a lot more goals than Chelsea can. That might be the difference maker, but still a very tasty affair potentially.
Well, one team that had its foot on the neck was West Ham, but they failed to keep it there. This is in the Premier League. They led 3-0 at one point, but Arsenal mounted an astonishing comeback in a helter-skelter second half to finish that game 3-0. A great boost to Mikel Arteta, and of course its team will be quietly confident that they can keep making progress up the ladder. Another team that was happy with the outcome this weekend, Tottenham Hotspur winning 2-0 at Villa. Gaza, just a quick comment from you. Villa have missed Grealish.
They have definitely missed Grealish, Mike. You can actually see with the way they play. Most of the time when he is there, most of the balls are going to Grealish. He is the one who starts a lot of the attacks. But without him, they are more trying to play more like a team. But when you can actually see that they don't have a playmaker that Grealish is, they definitely miss him, because he creates a lot of chances and he makes the team play.
In other results, Leeds United got the better of Fulham 2-1, whilst Brighton was too good for Newcastle 3-0. Quick look at the top of the Premier League standings. City leads the way, followed by United. Leicester is in third. Chelsea is in fourth. The Hammers are in fifth. And Spurs have climbed ahead of Liverpool into sixth place.
From Rufaro to Barberfield, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Let's take you into Italy now. Your results from Serie A from the weekend. Parma going down against Genoa 2-1. Crotone beaten at home by Bologna 3-2. Spezia 2-1 against Cagliari. Atalanta with a 2-0 win against Hellas Verona. Sampdoria 1-0 against Torino. Udinese versus Lazio ended 1-0 to Lazio. Juventus going down against Benevento 1-0. Alois, bit of a surprise result, especially when Juventus need the points if they're going to take the Scudetto.
No, I hope they don't. I hope they drop a lot of points and they don't take the Scudetto. I want Inter Milan to take it. No, seriously, I'm happy when Juventus are dropping points, and I want to see a new winner for the Scudetto this season. You know, when they drop points, I'm one of the happiest people in the world.
Dries Mertens scored his 99th and 100th Serie A goals for Napoli to secure a 2-0 win away to top four rivals AS Roma last night. They continue that mount into the top four. Stefano Pioli says Milan scraped the bottom of the barrel as they came from behind to seal a dramatic 3-2 Serie A win over Fiorentina. Mike, this is exactly what it's about, scraping through to get those wins, especially right now when they're so close to the top.
Yeah, that's the difference, I think, between the Milanese sides and Juventus. The Milanese sides are finding ways to win. They're showing character. Juventus, I think, are too dependent on their star quality. So Cristiano Ronaldo has to do something. And now that Dybala has been out of the team for several weeks, I think his presence, more than anyone else, more than Cristiano's presence, actually, I think Dybala's absence has been felt, because he's been such a good complement to Cristiano Ronaldo, and Cristiano Ronaldo isn't as effective without Dybala in the team as he is playing next to the likes of Morata. So I'm with Alois. I can't see Juventus bouncing back, closing a 10-point deficit. Milan still have an outside chance, but this title is now for Inter Milan to lose.
Your Serie A table then looks like this. Inter sitting at the top, AC Milan in second, Juventus teetering around in third, and Atalanta makes up the top four.
Alcohol may be hazardous to health if consumed to excess. The operation of machinery or driving after the consumption of alcohol is not advisable. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18 years.
Castle Lager is more than just beer. It's pure liquid gold, crafted from the finest local ingredients to deliver a taste that is somewhat dry, somewhat bitter, but never sweet. It's the taste that stood the test of time. It all comes together with a castle.
All right, let's dive into Spain. Your La Liga weekend results look like this. Real Betis 2-0 victors over Levante. Athletic Club 1-1 draw with Aiba. Real Madrid, good victory on the road. 3-1 winners over Celta Vigo, though at halftime it was looking a little bit hairy. Huesca 0-0 draw with Osasuna. Real Valladolid 1-1 draw with Sevilla. Getafe and Elche 1-1 draw as well. Valencia 2-1 winners over Granada. Villarreal 2-1 winners over Cadiz. And Atletico Madrid doing what they need to do. A Luis Suarez goal guaranteeing a 1-0 victory over Alaves. But the game of the weekend, or the result of the weekend, was Barcelona's 6-1 win away at Real Sociedad. It's normally a difficult place to travel to, Alois, but Barcelona making it look easy, and Barcelona also looking like the old Barcelona.
Barcelona doing well, Barry. Remember a few weeks ago we spoke about it, but you know what? Atletico Madrid, they were so wrong, and they were so irresponsible for letting that big gap getting closed by Barcelona. We spoke about Barcelona's winning run. When they hit form, they start winning matches, and they keep on closing that gap. Do you remember? I actually said it. I now doubt if Atletico Madrid are going to win this league, and I'm doubting they are going to win it because they lost it. Because as long as you have got Barcelona coming close to you, when they've hit that form and beat and run, you are just dicing with death. And they have just done it. Real Madrid, yes, they are another team that can also hit form, but Real Madrid are not consistent in as much as Barcelona are. For me, I look at Barcelona and see the winners of La Liga this season. Atletico won't win it.
Wow. A prediction made at this time by Alois Bunjira saying that Atletico Madrid won't win the league. My goodness, they are still 4 points ahead of Barcelona, who are in second position. So they still have all the chips. If the league were to end today, Atletico Madrid would be champions. The problem is there's still games to be played. Real Madrid are in third with 60.6 points off the top. Sevilla occupy the last of the Champions League positions with 55 points. Let's pop into Germany very quickly before we look at South Africa. Quick results out of the Bundesliga. RB Leipzig, a good win away at Arminia Bielefeld. 1-0 winners. They prevailed, did RB Leipzig. Cologne and Borussia Dortmund playing out a 2-2 draw. Eintracht Frankfurt 5-2. It ended in favor of Frankfurt against Union Berlin. Bayern Munich doing what Bayern Munich does. 4-0 winners over Stuttgart. Wolfsburg 2-1 winners over Werder Bremen, while Borussia Mönchengladbach beat Schalke 3-0. Hoffenheim beaten at home 2-1 by Mainz, while Hertha Berlin scored 3 goals, unanswered goals against Bayer Leverkusen, while Freiburg winning 2-0. Bayern Munich still leads the way in Germany. RB Leipzig in second, while Wolfsburg are in a third. In fourth position is Eintracht Frankfurt. Borussia Dortmund are in a fifth, still chasing that Champions League place.
It was El Clasico yesterday afternoon. Normally, Soweto would come to a standstill. This time, it didn't because there were no fans allowed in at Soccer City. But that didn't stop Kaizer Chiefs from registering a 1-0 win over their arch rivals, Orlando Pirates. The Amakosi claiming bragging rights over their Soweto rivals in the 100th league clash between these two games. And Gavin Hunt, no doubt, Chris, relieved.
Incredibly relieved. I think going into this, Kaizer Chiefs were definitely the underdogs. They definitely needed to get some sort of win, and they managed to do it, and against Orlando Pirates.
They defended well, didn't they, Alois? Because there were times when Orlando Pirates was sweeping forward wave after wave, but Kaizer Chiefs were resolute and disciplined in defense.
Yeah, I like the way they defended, Mike, because there are times that you know that you're playing against a team that is superior, technically superior than you, and all you need to do is actually to defend and hit on the break or just to absorb the pressure. That's what exactly Kaizer Chiefs did. You know, in previous matches they were outplayed. They knew that they were outplayed in previous matches, and this time around they had a plan. They knew that absorbing the pressure was going to work for them, and it actually did. They defended very well. I actually think that they won this match because they defended well, not because they attacked so well. They defended better.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, their tactics criticized by the Orlando Pirates coach, Zimbauer, who said that he didn't think it proper for a home team to play counter-attack. He says that playing at home, Barry, he would have gone for a deep block. But Chiefs know where they are. Like I always say, they recognized a superior opponent and they set out their stall accordingly.
That's why it's called a game plan, a match plan in other parlance, Mike. They had a game plan that suited where they are as Kaizer Chiefs, where their playing resources are relative to the opponent that they were facing. And they did what they needed to do. Defend deep and make sure that they hit their opponent on the break. And it worked to a T. So Joseph Zimbauer can criticize all he wants. The 3 points went to the team that had a match plan that superseded the other on the day.
Well, 3 points also going to Amazulu, who beat Chakuma Madzivandila 2-0, and Maritzburg United, who registered a similar scoreline in their victory over TS Galaxy. Mamelodi Sundowns were held to a 1-0 draw by Black Leopards. The same thing for Cape Town City, held by Golden Arrows 1-1. There was a 2-0 draw between Chippa and Swallows, and another 1-0 draw between Baroka and Punya Sele Bloemfontein Celtic.
That dive into Mzansi concluding our show for today. We're back tomorrow with Top Hit Tuesday, so don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.